The person tasked with fixing President Biden's border crisis is in France today. Vice President Kamala Harris rolling through Paris with this 20-car motorcade. She's there to patch up the rocky relationship with our oldest ally after President Biden left France in the dark on a submarine deal. She'll also discuss the migrant crisis, but not the one on our southern border. No, she's apparently more focused on the immigration crisis in Europe. This morning, the vice president toured a COVID-19 lab in Paris. This is her third foreign trip and comes as her approval numbers take a big nosedive. So, Pete, let me get this straight. Our borders is in Europe to discuss not our border problem, but Europe's.
But to be fair, the border problem that they have in Europe was created by the Libyan intervention underneath Obama and Biden in 2011. So when they broke that whole situation, migrants flooded into Europe. And because Europe has long since not defended its borders and doesn't believe in itself, it's been effectively defenseless. But you wonder why her approval rating's at 28%. I can handle a bad leader. Just don't give me somebody who refuses to lead at all. And so she won't even go to the border, recognize the issues, talk about them because she has no solution for them. So I think they're trying to shore up her foreign policy creds because maybe she still lives under the fantasy that she can run for president at some point, but she might want to look at doing some things because that usually is what helps your numbers.
Right, not a PR campaign, which she's been on for a while. Emily, we heard from a senior administration official what we can expect to hear from Kamala Harris. They say she's going to express a deep concern for human rights in the situation of migrants and refugees and reinforce the imperative of protecting vulnerable people, including those fleeing conflict. How's she living up to that here in the United States?
It's all talk and no action, you guys. Since day one, it has been all talk, all promises, and no action. And that has been the hallmark of her public service career for decades, frankly. Those of us who lived in San Francisco and California under her watch know that exactly well. And to Pete's point about being in Europe, ironically, across the southern border, obviously Border Patrol has reported illegal migrants coming from over 120 countries. So she should know then, doing her homework to Europe, that it's absolutely impacting our southern border. So where was she to that hollow statement? Where was she when in August we had record-breaking numbers of unaccompanied migrant children? 15,000. Where was she with the 1.66 million arrests just through September alone this year on their southern border? That's more than 3 times for some reason, the press likes to think of Oakland as her hometown, even though it's not. That's 3 times that population. Where was she on the 33 recorded instances of sexual abuse in 1 month alone by the Department of Health and Human Services? The staggering COVID transmission rates among migrants over the border that eclipses the rate that shut down our public school system. The list goes on. But the reality is the southern border is absolutely crippling our economy down there, and it's stressing so many towns up through and including all 50 states that are crippled by opioid and fentanyl addiction and overdoses. And yet she is seen gallivanting around. To Pete's point, if it's shoring up foreign policy or her foreign policy chops, then I would like to demand another meeting between her and President Obrador, because we need some type of semblance of leadership for our southern border, and it's not her.
And where was she on illegal immigrant children on suicide watch list and her and Biden's emergency intake facilities? She's been woefully absent on a lot, as you point out. Maybe that's why she has a stunningly low 27.8% approval rating. I've said it before. I thought it'd be hard to find someone more unlikable than Hillary Clinton. But then we get this kind of comment from our vice president at NASA.
Can you measure trees? Because part of that data that you're referring to, and it's an EJ, it's environmental justice, but you can also track by race. There are averages in terms of the number of trees in the neighborhood where people live. It's profound and shocking.
So the environmental justice of trees, she's just focusing on the wrong things.
Look, what she's focusing on is something that must be politically expedient to this administration. We may not know how, but that tends to be a trend line here. And I think that that's something that when reporters gather at the White House press briefing, they can ask about. Why would you choose this over more pertinent energy issues and inflation and stuff at home? We're not, looking at it and saying these things aren't important. We're just wondering, why not focus on the things that are urgent and critical to the success of the American people? And that would be a fair question. I have two things I wonder about with Kamala Harris. One is, what is it in her pedigree, on her resume, that says, crisis in Europe, send her?
Yeah, right.
What is it? I mean, did I miss something? Did she handle something outside of your former home state of California, Emily, where she was a leader while you were a resident there, that I missed? I really want to know that. And you know, the other issue with Kamala Harris is she doesn't even do a debrief on this stuff. She doesn't say, let's hold a news conference, let me tell you why I went there, and then let me tell you what I learned about border crisis and how I might apply that like tapestry over the crises here.
Great
I mean, look, I can take a lot of a learning curve. I'm with Pete. You want to be bad at your job, and you know, we can all talk about that. But what we want is somebody who's trying to be better.
Yeah.
We want somebody who's trying to build back better.
Right.
On their own resume.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to know why she's the person who becomes not our border czar, but Europe's.
It's a great point. And interestingly, I think people in the West Wing are noticing how ineffective she is, Carly. The Washington Post, with this reporting, one reflection of the White House's struggles is the low profile of Vice President Harris, who has little role in the internal debates. The current and former officials said, including two who characterized her as, quote, completely irrelevant. These are Biden officials saying this.
Yeah, and hey, Kayla, you hit the nail on the head when you said focusing on the wrong things. There seems to be a really big disconnect between the Biden administration and the American people. They're always going to have their supporters, of course. But now you're hearing about independents and even Democrats who are saying, if this is what big government looks like, count me out. America was founded on the concept of rejecting and restraining big government. So with that in mind, how dare the administration tell people to inject their bodies with a vaccine that they may not be comfortable with, or tell moms and dads that they can't be involved in what their children learn, or on the Build Back Better issue, that USA Today poll found that 61% of people say that it would either hurt or have no effect on their families, which is a total rejection of the Biden administration being more involved in their everyday lives. And I think Kamala Harris represents all of that. And on top of that, she seems to be very uncomfortable with the role that she's been given.
Oh, but don't worry. She hired PR experts like Jen Psaki's brother-in-law. How's that working out, Veep?